And so, it is truth that sets you free. Only truth sets you free. Only truth can set you free from the great misunderstanding. Only truth can set you free. And that truth is who you are. You are that truth. And so the truth that sets you free is the truth of being yourself, sets you free from the great misunderstanding, sets you free from the story, sets you free from being the storyteller, sets you free to be yourself, to be the wide open field that is ever free, has ever been free. So in true freedom, there is no you, not in the way that has been imagined. There is just freedom. And yet the felt sense of being yourself is more alive and full and rich than it has ever been. So the mind cannot understand what it is to be no one, to not be a someone, and yet to be empty of someone, empty of personhood, we could say, is to be free only of the story, only free of suffering, free of the struggle, the challenge. Cannot be imagined with the mind. And it is only when we are in truth, in the knowing of truth, that this freedom is recognized. And so truth is this moment so powerful, so profound, and so empty in its naturalness of story. One being, one fullness, one life, and that life is eternal. That life is truth. And so the way, if there could be such a thing, to freedom, the way to truth is to be the truth, is to be the living truth. It is to be the living answer. It is to prove without question, without doubt, in your direct experience of being, that without thought, there is no story, there is no struggle, no suffering, no problem. And it is to prove without question, without doubt, in the moment, in the direct experience that illuminates the truth of who you are and extinguishes the story and reveals in the light of awareness the attachment to telling the story, being the storyteller. It is also to illuminate the innocence of that learned protective mechanism. But when seen in the light, it is to not grab onto it again. It is to see it in the light and let it go. When it is illuminated, let the illumination be so bright and the depth of recognition, clarity in the direct experience be so clear that who you are in essence is not the story, that without thought there is no problem, that in this moment, the fullness of this moment, simply being, reveals the freedom, the truth of who you are, that you are the light, you are the love, you are the happiness, the joy, the peace that has been longed for. In a way, the love, the joy, the peace it is freedom. If we were to bundle it all up, it's freedom. It's freedom from the confines and protection of the mind that holds itself captive by telling itself the story again and again. It's so compelling because it's a habit, it's a conditioned habit. Now, as these words come, these words are, of course, not for the mind. The mind will listen, but the invitation is to be the openness in which these words are flowing. Being the openness in which the words are flowing is to be the wide open space that is not trying to understand, not trying to analyze or decipher the words, but is the openness that can just feel the flow. And when certain words come and there's a landing or a sense of recognition of truth, it is just to drop into that felt sense of the recognition, drop into the resonance of truth as it is recognized. Now, the resonance of truth can only be dropped into in the openness, in the receptivity, we could say being the awareness of what is happening here. But the resonance of truth cannot be perceived by the mind because the resonance of truth is finer. It's a finer frequency. And at some point in the sharing, in the flow of the infusion, this infusion, consciousness naturally recognizes itself. And as consciousness recognizes itself in the resonance, it attunes to the finer frequency of truth. So there is nothing to do here, nothing to understand. It does not matter, even if the mind is thinking, because it's not about the mind. It's not about getting anything. It's not about behaving in a certain way. It's not about creating spiritual moods. It's not about being involved as someone in this moment in any way. It's an invitation to relax. Relax in a way that the me cannot even understand or choose to relax. But as the words come, there is a natural relaxation that starts to happen. It is just to be here, to be open, to be receiving, to not know anything. We could say to feel the felt sense of just being here, to feel your own presence, that you are here. You are just simply here. And just as you are here, that is enough. That is all that is required, is just to be here. Now, the more openness there is, the more receptivity there is, because it is openness that receives. Openness receives naturally, and in the natural, open receiving, there is a receiving of the resonance and an attuning to the resonance, recognizing, falling deeper into yourself. So the felt sense of just being here, just being here, just like this, that there's a felt sense of your own presence, just being here, that you know you are here, and the felt sense of being here has no name, has no story. It's just the I am presence, just being. That it is, in truth, empty of any story. There's just a felt sense of being. And this being is aware, naturally aware. So we're not moving from one thing to the other. What's really happening is we're just opening to more of what we are, opening to more, opening to meet more of what we are. So nothing can be done, because the opening to more is opening really in the unseen, opening to more of the true nature, opening to more of the fullness and beauty that you are, opening to more of the love, the kindness, the compassionate patience that you are, opening to the simple joy that you are, opening to the peace that you are. And the opening happens in the unseen, because we open deeper than the mind's activity, which is limited. The mind's activity is limited to what it knows. And the invitation of this moment is to not know, is to just not know, to just openly receive without knowing, without needing to understand, just opening to the flow of grace. And so only truth can set you free. No one can give you that truth. No one holds that truth more than you are that truth. No one is that truth more than you are the truth. Only you can give that truth to yourself. Only you can give freedom to yourself. You are absolutely 100% responsible for your own freedom. It's part of the mindset to project that possibility of being freed by someone else, imagining that this can be given, but it cannot. It is all about the readiness, the maturity, the humility, the courage, the pull of the heart, the deep longing of the heart to know yourself. And none of that can be measured externally, cannot be measured. You cannot know how ready you are, how mature you are, how deep your longing is. It's all immeasurable, because when we come to consciousness, there's an intelligence that is moving everything, that is beyond measure and limitation. It is unlimited, flowing freedom. And so it is as we open to this unlimited field of flowing freedom that we open to the fullness of what we are. So as these words come, there might be a certain sense of understanding or following the words. There might be no sense of being able to follow. There might be a sense of going in and out. And it just does not matter, because these words are not instructions. They are the flow, the natural flow of life. And they are flowing to catch you in the net, catch you in the net, and carry you deeper into your own heart, to carry you deeper into your own freedom, your own longing, your own purity, your own divinity. They're to carry you into what you are longing for. They're not to carry you anywhere other than into yourself. And that is the grace of this whole unfolding, that it's not about taking on new beliefs or learning something new. It's all about coming into a deeper realness with yourself, a deeper reality, the one reality. It's opening to the reality of who you are. and opening to recognize that there is a longing in the heart, a longing in the heart to know yourself more deeply, to know the freedom that you are, to know the whole truth, the wholehearted truth of who you are and what this is. And that is the beauty of this unfolding, is that we come to this. In a way, it's like we come to the edge of experience when there is a readiness to surrender deeper. But the surrender deeper is into nothing other than yourself. It's not a surrender into someone else, into a teaching, into a set of beliefs or concepts. It's a profoundly beautiful surrender into yourself, a surrender to know yourself more deeply, to know oh, the beauty, the tender-hearted beauty of who you are, the preciousness of who you are. In a way, it is to know how much you matter, but you have to know how much you matter to yourself. You have to have this willingness to know yourself so deeply, to face yourself, all of yourself, in order to know that you matter, that you're precious, so that we stop looking for confirmation externally and we find that confirmation in the true nature, in our own true nature, in our own fullness. We find the love that we are in our own heart, in the preciousness, the tenderness, the beauty of meeting the parts of ourselves that we have been kept from, that have given us a sense that there's something missing. And we discover that what has been missing is all of yourself, all of yourself. And all of yourself is, yes, the vast, infinite, expanded consciousness, but it's also the tender places of the heart. It's also the places inside us that learn to protect and guard. It's meeting ourselves without any protection, without any defense, any guarding. Now, the play can bring forward a sense of feeling inferior as a way of protecting, can also bring forward at times a sense of superiority as a way of protecting. But the grace is that this truth is neither inferior nor superior. And there's no one ever in this truth that holds the power, is hierarchically above, ever. This power is so profound. This power is such a humble power, let's say. The divine wholeness is so humble in its nature that it is in constant, perpetual surrender into itself. It is never defending itself, never trying to prove itself, never ever leaving its truth, never leaving its truth. And it is sustaining itself in the power and the light of its own truth. And in the sustaining of itself, in the power of its own truth, Ma, she is inviting all of her children to do the same. She's inviting everyone, every being, every thread to surrender into its whole self at the point that you have believed yourself to be an individual, separate person. It is this invitation to surrender so fully into yourself that you find your belonging in your own heart. in your own stillness, in your own silence, in your own authentic openness to all of yourself, where you are unprotected. So as these words come, it is just to feel the resonance of truth, just to feel where there's an aliveness, can be felt like an aliveness in the nervous system. It can feel very alive, like a yes, yes, this, because this truth you are. And when the resonance of this truth is recognized, it starts to sing within the nervous system. It starts to sing silently in recognition with a resonance that just knows this truth. It's not knowing this truth conceptually or through the mind. It just starts to resonate like a frequency, like a vibration. And in a way, the aliveness of that recognition is such a profound knowing of yourself more deeply, immediately, right now, spontaneously. We're not speaking about a 20-year journey here. We're speaking about this moment. We're speaking about this timeless moment where you can feel the truth of who you are, and you can immediately start to resonate as the timeless being that you are, that is deeply silent and still and knowing this self, an intimacy with yourself, an openness to be yourself, a sense of deep divine permission to let go of all of that trying to be someone, all of that trying so hard to be someone, just to be seen, to be loved, to be recognized, when the deepest truth is that the meaning of your life is to know that you are life. It is to recognize yourself, know the love that you are, to find your self-sufficiency, your authentic realness and wholeness, where nothing is needed outside. And in your own authentic realness and wholeness, you find a power, and the power is pure love. It's pure joy. It's a pure sense of yourself, just shining. And there's nothing that you have to do in order to be yourself. Part of the protection that can come from a spiritual journey is an idea that this has to be hard, and you have to work hard, and you have to try and effort, and somehow that you have sinned and you have to repent and you have to do all of this hard work. But the hard work is actually, truthfully, to just be present. The hard work can be over in an instant, because the hard work is to be here now, so fully present to your own presence that you see through the whole story and illusion, and you fall into freedom. You fall into the light of your true nature that is awake and aware right now, right now. And it doesn't matter how many years you've been in satsang. It doesn't matter how many years you've been in a spiritual life, seemingly. None of that matters in truth, because truth is this moment. In fact, truth can only be known when we let go of the protection of all of those ideas of how long we've been in a spiritual life. When we let go of all of those teachings, all of those moods and beliefs that we've gathered that actually enforce the sense of being someone. Now, it can enforce the sense of being someone that's learned a lot and achieved a lot, or it can be a sense of someone that has not really got anywhere yet, that's still struggling, like being a dust mote that thinks that they're humble, but actually that's just another protection, right? True humility actually brings us to straighten the spine and stand tall and shine. Yes, you are nothing. Yes, you are no one, but you are divine wholeness, and you stand strong and tall and shining and emanating love as your true self. You're not afraid to be your true self. That's the me saying, oh no, I mustn't shine. I mustn't behave in any way that seems to be. But this true nature does not have that barrier, that layer of ideas of what you are and what you're not. You just shine because you are light. You shine because you are light. You emanate love because you are love, right? You emanate a power because you are pure power, right? But never a power over, never a hierarchical, a better than, or having achieved anything, not at all. Never knowing something, not at all. You know nothing. The less that you know, the more space and emptiness there is to know yourself. And this is all about just knowing yourself, reveling in yourself, reveling in yourself. So in this moment, in the felt sense of being, it is just to confirm that you have no name, no story. Just the honest truth of this moment is that the felt sense of being, the I am presence, is before the first thought and can confirm, does this being, does this presence have a story? Does this being have a name? Does this being have any struggle? And in the felt sense of being, the being itself confirms, no, this moment feels very free and open. This moment, without a thought, without identifying with thought, is very free and open. And in the confirmation starts to turn the attention into your own presence. You start to come into more of an intimacy and familiarity, really a remembering of your own presence. That this part of you is not away from you, it's not unfamiliar. It's a part of you that's always here. It's your own presence. It's your own stillness. It's your own silent, aware being. It's the greater part of you. It's the unbounded, free part of you, the unlimited part of you. It's the naturalness, the simple, relaxed openness, where you're just with yourself. You're not wearing a costume. You're not wearing a mask. You're not putting on a role. You're not putting on a name. And here you're absolutely before my life. You're just life itself. You're just here. In a way, this is the atom. This is existence, simple existence. Before time and space, before the mind creates and weaves a web of me, identifies the attention with the mind and the body, creates the story. Just here, there's a sense of freedom. Now this aware presence can witness the mind, can see the thoughts that come and go, can see the body, can see really the thought process. See that the thoughts keep changing. But as the witnessing presence, aware of thoughts and recognizing as the awareness, the witnessing presence of thoughts, that the felt sense of being the witness is very spacious and free, very spacious and free. That the witness, the present witness, is not touched by any of the thoughts, not affected or disturbed by any of the thoughts. And there's a confirmation, a recognition, yes, this witness, this presence, this I am presence, it has no name and is not touched by any of the thoughts, aware of the thoughts. Can see the thoughts that come and go, and the attention can be pulled by a thought. But as soon as there's a noticing, like an awareness that the attention is pulled by a thought, awareness can say, I'm aware of the thought, and therefore I'm not the thought. I'm the awareness of. I'm the awareness of all thoughts. And as the awareness, I'm not actually disturbed or touched by the thoughts. I'm completely free of it all. Completely free. So you find this part of yourself that's free and simple and peaceful and aware of the moving, changing. Aware of, we could say, the character, aware of the person, but that the awareness is somehow bigger than the person, vaster, and curiously somehow free of the person, and yet still feels like yourself. You still feel like yourself, but more spacious, more free, more open. And this is the essence nature. We could say this is the source of all that's moving and changing. And when we come to the invitation to inquire, the inquiry invites us to say, well, what is this I in truth? Just I. Is the I really attached to anything? And in the sense I, or I am, the recognition is the felt sense I am actually expands out of the body and out of the sense of being. I am my name, I am my story, I am the roles that I play. The actual simple sense I am, when really just felt, I, it has no meaning and it's not actually attached anywhere. I am, just presence, just being, right? So as these words come, follow in the immediacy in your own direct experience and curiously find out, oh yeah, that's true. If it doesn't feel like it resonates, just let it float by. Just let it float by, because there's more. There's more. And it's not to try to hang on to the words like instructions. Don't let it land in time. Just try it on, take it off. Try it on, take it off. Try it on, take it off, right? Don't hold on to it. Don't keep trying to make it fit, right? If it fits, fall in a little deeper. If there's a sense of a fit, it's like it lands and you fall a little deeper. Oh, Okay, that fits. Because when there's a sense of that fits, that's truth. That's truth. That's you finding your own truth. It's you dropping a little deeper into yourself. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Wow. Don't try to understand it. Don't try to make sense of it. Don't let the mind come in and say, okay, now I've got to work out what do I do with this? Don't need to know anything. Don't need to know anything. Because the great glory is that as we open to more of this beauty and truth of who we are, our own openness, we also open to discover that we're not the doer of life, that life is actually doing itself. And life is living through the body. Life, let's say life, and we are the life. Life is animating the character. Life is animating the body. Life is animating everything that we thought that we were. But we're opening to discover that what we are is more than what we thought we were. And the more that we're opening to is our true essence nature. It's our wholeness. It's the part that has always felt to be missing. We're opening to the vastness of our unbounded freedom. We're opening out of contraction and limitation to discover that we are unlimited and free, that what we are in truth is freedom. And there's a naturalness, a simplicity, and there's a deep profundity to this discovery, because it's in you already. It's not outside of you. And so as these words come, it might seem like there's someone outside of you sharing information, but really the sharing is the flow of silence, the flow of your own heart speaking to you. These words are you speaking to yourself. The gorgeousness is that every being will hear this, receive this differently, according to where the consciousness is and what is ready to receive. So if we were to go to every being and say, what's the big takeaway? What are you hearing right now? Every being would report something different, because every being is receiving this sharing in an attuned way that takes you deeper into yourself. So we could say that what is listening and what is speaking is the same. It's a flow of life, a flow of life, and you receive the flow of life into yourself, and it illuminates and enlivens your own stillness, your own silence, your own openness, your own wide open heart is illuminated because you recognize yourself. You recognize a deeper part of yourself. And there's a relaxation, a simple relaxation into yourself. So when we come to inquiry, we want to always inquire with, let's say, whatever we are believing is true, whatever is holding us captive. We want to find out, is that which is holding us captive actually true, right? So remember, truth sets you free, and you are that truth. And in the knowing of the truth that you are free. Now, if there is something that is holding you captive, the inquiry is to find out, is that true? Is it true? Is it a belief? Is it a thought? If you cannot confirm in your direct experience without any doubt That what is your experience, what is being believed, if you cannot confirm its truth, then it's not true. Now, the only thing that we can actually confirm as truth is, of course, truth itself. And truth itself is just presence, just this moment, just being. Truth is just being. Truth is the openness. Truth is your direct experience right now, without a thought. So if a thought comes and it's believed, whether it's a simple little thought or a big traumatic thought, we want to find out if it's keeping you separate from the being, from love, from freedom. We want to find out, well, is that true? Is it actually true? And when we come to open, to really have to face that, we are usually humbled to meet our own mind and have to say, well, actually, no, it's a thought. So then what is true? What is true is presence. Can you feel your own presence? Can you feel the truth of your own presence? And usually we will say, yes, yes, yes. So then it's that recognition. When you feel your own presence and you confirm your own presence, and that the presence is true, and that the thought and the belief that was upsetting isn't true, what is actually here? Who are you actually in this moment? You discover that you are freedom, that you are this truth, this presence, and you're not the thought that you thought you were, right? But it takes this incredible humility to face your own mind. When we say, is this true? We're humbled. We're humbled where we have to face, no, it's not true. No, that's not who I am. No, that is just a story. And who's telling that story? Oh, that's the mind. That's the mind telling itself a story. And when it believes that story, it's upset and feels contracted and separate. Now, when we question that story, when we question that thought, is it true? Can you feel the being? Can you feel the presence? Yes, can feel the presence. Does the presence have a thought? Does the presence of being get disturbed by any thought? No. So then who are you? In direct experience in this moment, you are the presence. Yes, you can confirm that. So are you the thought that was upsetting? No. So let it go. Let it go. It was innocent. And we see the innocence, but we don't create more story about it. We don't create story. We see in the humility, well, the mind is the storyteller, and the mind wants to keep telling the story because the story is a way of protecting. Now we see in innocence, as the presence of being, we meet our own innocence. Oh, I'm just the presence. I am the being. I am innocence. I'm not the story that somehow felt like there was something wrong with me, or that I had been wronged, that anything was wrong. I'm not that story. I am innocence. I am purity. I am divine wholeness. I am presence. I am just this light of this moment shining. I never have been the story, ever. This is the freedom that truth brings. Truth brings a freedom in the moment, spontaneously. That is a moment of remembering utter freedom. And the moment of remembering utter freedom can actually free us from life into eternity. This profundity, when we really see through this, it frees us so deeply from the really gnarly entanglement with the misunderstanding. Now the mind imagines, oh, well, if I let go, I'm going to be unprotected and what's going to happen to me? But that's the mind telling itself another story. So when we reveal the storyteller as the presence, the innocent presence, the true nature, we can see the storyteller. We can see the innocence of the storyteller because we know our own innocence, right? If it's the mind trying to say, oh, that part is okay, that part's okay, it still doesn't really know its innocence and it's trying to protect, right? So there's a real difference where the mind is trying to say, oh, but that part of me is okay. I'm letting that part of me be here. I need to let that part of me be here because I want to still believe in myself, right? Whereas true truth illuminates, oh, that's all a story. That's all a story. And the freedom is seeing that it's all a story. And the innocence is recognized in your own presence, your own truth. That truth is truth is truth. Truth could never be guilty. Truth could never do anything wrong because truth is truth is truth all the way through. Truth is only ever true. And when we open to really meet this truth, the knowing is that nothing has ever been outside of this truth. We illuminate the storyteller, and it takes humility to illuminate the storyteller, because even as we see this truth, that storyteller will want to keep telling the story. It's like the fan that when you pull the plug out of the wall, the fan still has a few rotations to make. Now, the storyteller will want to keep telling the story. And that's why every time we illuminate the storyteller with humility, we just see that when we believe the storyteller, it's like plugging the fan back in and off it goes again. When we rest as the being, we don't plug the fan back in, but we see the revolutions of the story and we see how the storyteller wants to keep telling the story. We see that none of that is true. We illuminate the innocence of the misunderstanding, but we rest in the being that is truth. We rest firmly in the freedom of direct experience, and we don't plug the fan back in, right? We don't plug the ego back in, because, you know, in the humility, what we have to recognize when we face our own mind, what we face is this humility that we're facing ourselves, we're facing the storyteller, we're facing that everything that we've told ourselves is not true. And it takes such a humility to let it go. It takes such a humility, we could say in a way, to die into your true nature and let your story die. Let your story of victimhood die. Let the story of being wronged, of something wrong with you, of misery, you let that story that there's something wrong with you and that you're somehow less than whole, that you're less than enough, that you're less than divine, that you're less than perfection. It takes such humility to let that story go and to actually face your divine wholeness, to actually face your purity, your perfection, to actually face God as yourself, right? But you're not facing God as yourself as someone. You're facing God and disappearing into God. We could say you're facing love and disappearing into love. You're facing presence and disappearing into your own presence, into your own heart. Now, the words here don't matter. The words here don't matter. It's about where the resonance of recognition of truth is alive, silent, still, and resonating with it, with recognition. It takes everything to face your own self. It takes such humility to face yourself as divine wholeness, not as your story that there's something wrong with me. Now, the human condition is there's something wrong with me, and I have something wrong with me that I need the world and my life and the story to keep proving my deepest core belief that there's something wrong with me. And now that's the insanity of the human condition, is that the whole life of the me is trying constantly to search for happiness in the temporary and constantly trying to find happiness in the external, in things, in relationships, in experiences. And let's face it, constantly really being disappointed. In our heart of hearts, we have to say, we're constantly disappointing. No one ever really meets our expectations. No experience ever really meets our expectations. We're truly always disappointed, even by, the relationships that are really precious to us. In our deepest heart of hearts, we have to say, yep, it never quite meets what I really long to meet. And that's because what we're really longing to meet is our whole self. And we can only meet that whole self inside our own unprotected heart. We can only meet all of our expectations in the meeting of our whole self, our own openness. And that's the curiosity, is that we will always be disappointed by the world because that world is created by our belief in our lack. It's a belief in lack, and we're creating a picture of that lack. Now we're creating that picture so that we can see through it. In a way, we're creating the life so that it creates enough jiggledy disturbance to carry us deeper in. We actually want it to shake everything up, right? It's like a snow globe. Life wants to shake us up so that we stop. We stop and we let everything settle. Life will keep shaking everything up until the moment where we stop and we let it all settle. And when it all settles, we find our own presence. We find our own silence. We find the deep sense of being and a wholeness and a fullness, a knowing of ourself, a meeting of our own self, our own precious self, our own precious heart. so deeply open and unprotected that we meet a sense of fulfillment. We meet a sense of how precious we are, how tender we are. We could even say how fragile we are. We meet our own innocence. We meet our own beauty. We meet our own divinity. And our own divinity is quite simply the purity of our own presence that has never ever been tainted. That underneath the whole play of life has always been this innocence, has always been this pure, innocent, divine one. And this whole play of life, this whole human experience is all about seeing through the illusion and the great misunderstanding and coming to a depth of humility. We could say that humility is really almost like a forgiveness, a depth of humble forgiveness of the whole shebang, of our own misunderstanding, our own innocent misunderstanding that our story is not actually true. It's to see through the story, and the humility comes where we can really face our own mind. We can really see it in the light of awareness and see, well, that is not true. Now this, we have to know what is true. We can only truly see it when we know what is true. Because if we don't know what is true, the seeing will still be partial. It will still be some kind of mental, conceptual understanding. And that's why this truth is not a teaching. Teachings might point us to this truth, but at some point we have to go before the teaching, because the teaching will be conceptual. It's where the Buddha spoke that in the end, you have to see through the Dharma. You have to see through the Dharma, and you have to know that you are the Buddha, right? You have to know your Buddha nature. You have to see through the Dharma, because the seeing reveals that the Dharma is empty. The Dharma, the teaching, has always been empty. And it reveals our own emptiness. And that is the glory, is that it brings us to the void, the spaciousness, the emptiness, the openness of our own nature, where there's no one and nothing really here in the way we imagined through the story. And yet everything is here, but everything is God. Everything is divine wholeness. And we are one, utterly, in truth, with that. This is the whole truth. We long for the whole truth. We long for the whole truth. And we long for it in different ways, like, I want to know the truth. What is this life about? Why can't people just be honest? Right? Why can't you just be honest with me? Right? It shows up in the way that the life plays, in some way. Why do people lie? Why do people deceive each other? Why is there infidelity? Right? All of these ways, it's because we're not honest with our own true nature, that in the collective, that dishonesty is dancing, right? So that longing that we have, in whichever flavor we have, for truth, for there not to be deception, for that not to be played out, whether it's in the micro of your seemingly individual life, or whether it's in the macro of what we see on the great world stage, right? that deception, that dishonesty, it's our own dishonesty with our own true nature. It's the misunderstanding, right? It's the great misunderstanding. And at the moment, the collective consciousness is deeply entangled in that great imbalance, which is separation, right? So we have this possibility when the spark in our own heart comes alive to know the truth, we're being invited to see through the illusion, to see through the great misunderstanding, and to come to a depth of honesty in our own heart, to face ourselves. So all of the places where it feels like our expectations are not being met, people don't show up the way we want them to show up, we're not seen the way that we want to be seen, we don't feel like we're really heard or listened to. And all that is a reflection of our own not really being one with our true nature. So that is where, when, let's say, a happening happens in life, like a moment where we feel unseen or misunderstood or not heard, or that we feel like somebody has deceived us, right? Whatever that looks like, the way to our own heart is to not project outwards, you've done this, you're doing that, or within our internal dialogue, that person is like that, or they don't see me, or they don't hear me, or they don't love me, or whatever it is. Instead of projecting it outwards, we notice that there's a disturbance in the nervous system. And instead of projecting out, we meet, oh, there's a disturbance in my nervous system. That disturbance in the nervous system is actually your own heart calling you to be more fully with yourself. It's your own being, your own heart, your own truth knocking from the inside, saying, feel me, receive me, open to me, open to all of the protections. Don't project, don't protect again. Feel me, release me from the exile of being bound in separation. Release me from inside. Release me into love. And so as a vehicle, we have this incredible ability to release these inner demons or gremlins or shadows or exiled, victimized parts of ourselves. Really like these parts of the child that learned to protect. And we don't have to go into psychological work. We just meet the feelings. We just meet the energy in the nervous system. Instead of projecting out, we meet the energy in the nervous system, and we meet, in a way, the inner child. And in meeting the inner child, we meet the great misunderstanding. Now, this can really release some intense feelings. And this is the work, is that we meet some intense feelings when we let go of protection. But to let go of protection, we're letting go into truth. But this is where, to really allow this work to be carried all the way through, we have to be able to confirm that the truth of who we are, and that we know the being that's untouched, because the untouched being is the shining light that's guiding these places inside us to their wholeness, to the light, to the love, right? We have to be holding a big enough space, a wide enough space, that these places will truly collapse out of protection, out of separation, and into love, right? So that's the work speak of here. That's the way that we unravel. But that unraveling is a timeless now. And it's not about the me imagining that it's a process in time. It's about being the being now and feeling the freedom. And if there's nothing up, if there's nothing creating a disturbance in this moment, then we don't have to go looking for a disturbance. We just rest in the being. Now, when we rest in the being, and it's like we've pulled the fan out, we've disabled ego conditioned patterning and protection. If we could just rest here, we're home, we're free. Freedom is free. But the residual will keep trying to pull us back into identification. And as it tries to pull us back into identification, this is where the true work is. The work is to stay in the truth and not identify, not move unwisely, not move unskillfully when we can see that it's an old pattern. We're being invited to really stand in this truth, in resolve, in the knowing, and rest in the being, and really meet the feelings that come when we face the storyteller, when we face our own mind and we stop telling the story. When we really stop telling the story, we see the storyteller and we see the innocence, and we hold the space of love, of light. Strongly, we hold the truth. This is pure love. This is pure truth. We hold the truth, and we don't let the storyteller keep telling the story, because it's like the parent that knows what's best for the child. The parent stays strong even when the child tantrums, and the child mind will tantrum. And if it can find candy, it will get candy. And if it has to sneak into the candy jar while the parent's sleeping, it will sneak into the candy jar while the parent's sleeping, right? But you're the parent, you are the light. And if the child tantrums, or you catch the child with the candy telling the story, as soon as there's a catching, this is the light of awareness revealing that's an egocentric pattern. That's a protection. It's innocent, but let's illuminate. Let's illuminate the robber. Let's illuminate that child robber sneaking to the candy jar or the cookie tin, right? Sneaking in for another round of storytelling. Illuminate it, and don't let it rob you of your freedom. Don't let it rob you of the truth of who you are. Now, how many revolutions that fan is going to make, and there will be times where you plug it in again to start with, because the habit is to just keep telling the story. But the more that there's a rooting in the recognition of your true heart, and that your true heart doesn't take away anything, it just frees you from misery, from suffering, and eventually frees you from entanglement in the collective, so that you can really live as this love, as this light, and then be this shining light for the world, right? In a way, world peace is not about doing on the surface. World peace is about finding the peace in your own heart and creating an appearance out of this true knowing. As long as there's a body, there will still be a manifest appearance, but we know in truth what that is, that it's just God. God only knows God, right? God dancing with God as God. We see the whole play with no separation, and everything is conspiring for this knowing to root deeply through the remembering of the essence nature into your own self, into your own heart, into the divine glory, into divine wholeness. And it all starts in this moment, being the being, just being here. Now, when we started, we spoke of how spontaneously you just fall into yourself, that you don't have to think about it, that there's nothing to do, that it's really happening in the unseen. Perhaps you can recognize now in consciousness that you're in the unseen, that somehow you're deeper and you don't really know how you got here. Because in the unseen, you're carried by your own consciousness into a deeper remembering. It's like you're carried by your own consciousness through the resonance into a remembering of a deeper knowing of yourself. And there's more of a sense of peace, a sense of calm, like a refuge, a sanctuary. Can feel the stillness and the peace of your own unmoving nature, that your presence is very, very still, unmoving and unchanging. It's as if, in a way, that sense of the witness that's watching, always watching, just really deepens. So you can still watch the moving, changing, but you can feel more deeply how still you are in truth. And that this stillness, it can't be disturbed by anything because it's so constant in its stillness. It's the stillness of presence. It's the presence that never, ever is disturbed. And then this is the peace. This is true peace. In a way, this is world peace. World peace is the recognition that underneath the play, that there's a peace that is undisturbable. Now, if every being was resting in this peace, the collective consciousness would spontaneously untangle from its conflict and warring, and peace would be known in every heart. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that profoundly moving? How profound? We can't make everyone come to this, but we can come to this in ourselves and live it and trust that as we come to it and live it, that the resonance, the frequency that we're transmitting starts to reverberate and shift the collective. It shifts the collective because we stop rippling as disturbance in the collective. We stop moving in those patterns that collaborate with separation, and we just shine as a beacon. We're putting out this frequency, which is really Om or Ma. We're just resonating as this. Like our whole life is getting to be a more pure and purer frequency. And as that frequency is just emitting, it's like more powerful than a gazillion cell phone towers. Just our lived life, when we're living in this presence, we're just silently emitting, and the consciousness of the beings around us starts to pick it up and starts naturally to feel the ripples, the reverberations. So we don't have to be evangelical and start sharing it and shouting from the rooftops, although we can feel like we want to, because we want everyone we love to know this truth and to be free. But the way that we share it is through living it. In a way, we could say, in worldly language, we model it, we live it, we fully live it. We let our lived life be a living expression of divinity. We don't have to say anything to anyone. Sometimes the Dharma will have the form speak, but it won't happen for everyone. We live it. We live as kindness. We live as truth. We live as patience, as compassion, as love, as light that just loves. We live as it. And in that, the frequency of our own lived experience gets richer and finer. And the finer it gets, the more widespreading it is, the further it goes, the bigger the ripples of truth, right? And so this is how we affect the collective, is that we unplug from the ways that we perpetuate, right? And we do our work when we meet something, when we come up against resistance and we want to project and move into conflict or move into protection, move into shutting down, instead of moving into that which is the micro expression of war, right? We see it in the bit macro and the micro. In our micro expression of war, we come to peace, we come to truth, right? We, through humility, we call a truce, right? We shift it in our lived experience through meeting the feelings and not projecting. We meet the feelings in our own nervous system and we fall in deeper. And in our lived experience, what happens is often intense feelings, and then a surrender. And in the surrender, we fall deeper into peace and deeper rooted into the knowing of who we are, and deeper into a one-pointedness, deeper into a resolve, deeper into the truth, right? And the deeper we are rooted in truth, we have this ability to surrender and the humility to keep meeting our own mind, to keep uprooting our own mind, to keep uprooting the storyteller, to keep revealing the storyteller. And as we reveal the storyteller, always we have to have the light of truth awareness shining. Because if the light isn't shining, we haven't got the full spaciousness for the collapse to happen into. If it's trying to happen as a mental process, it will always feel really sticky and tangly. We need to feel the feelings, but when the feelings are being felt, we have to then reference, can you feel the being? Can you feel the peace that is untouched? Yes, yes. Can you confirm that the being, the presence is untouched? This is confirming, are you plugged into the mothership? Are you plugged into God? Are you plugged into your divinity? Now you're ready to meet the feelings. If there's any more feelings there, oftentimes, as you really confirm, are you the peace? Yes, I'm the peace. Are you disturbed by anything? No. You're the being, you're the being. Usually what will happen, you'll confirm it, and then you turn to be very ready to meet the feelings, and it will seem as if the feelings, the problem, has gone up in smoke. Oh, it's not here, because the storyteller has stopped telling the story, and you've fallen into truth, and the misunderstanding has been revealed in the light, and it's not even trying to tell its story anymore. It can be on the edge of, but, this is really hard, or this is really, or but that one did this, or it can, but the more that's why we have to come to, can you feel the being? Is the being here? Yes. Confirm the being. What is the being? It's peaceful. What does it feel like? Openness. Are you disturbed by the story? No. Can you confirm that for sure? Yep, absolutely, no question. It's very clear and how quick you can confirm it when you're in the being. So how are you feeling now? Oh, free, free. Is there a story? No. If there are threads of story, it's to recognize when you're in the being, you're free. If you come back to the story, if the storyteller just suddenly says, oh, but what about, let truth, let Durga Ma stand true. Kali Ma, wrathful. Let that truth stand, shine, and say, is that the truth? Right? The storyteller trying to keep the story going. Is it the truth? Is that your true experience right now? What is true right now? To confirm that the only truth right now without a thought is the felt sense of being, the presence. Confirm the truth. Confirm what is true. How do you feel when you're resting in truth? Free, open, happy. Whatever words come, you let whatever is really true come. Vulnerable, right? Raw, whatever it is. These words I'm picking from the field. Whatever the words are, right? Be honest, shaky, right? Revealed. Okay. But stay true in presence. And then we would say, does presence feel shaky? No. Right? You face your own mind. You have to face your own mind. Does presence feel vulnerable? What actually is this? Oh, it's openness. It's openness. I feel very open. Unprotected. Right, yes. Because the being is open and unprotected. Are you okay? Yes. Are you okay? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. And before you know it, you're in freedom, right? This is the power of a depth of inquiry that keeps bringing you to the source, keeps bringing you to the being. That inquiry never happens in the mind. Inquiry is about coming to the truth, coming to what can be confirmed in direct experience. And to know that as you root in this truth, truth is truth is truth, is power, is love. And this love, this power of love, loves so deeply, so profoundly, so purely, that it's like a sword or a laser, that it will not let anything slip by. It will cut through what is not true, so that truth can shine, so that truth can live right on the surface of life. And the longing of every heart can actually be fulfilled, because the longing of every heart is for freedom, And whether we call that love or happiness or God or awakening or enlightenment, whatever we want to call it, it's a longing for freedom, a longing for truth. And of course, that is love. It is God. It is Ma. It is wholeness. It is happiness. It is the Immaculate. It is Buddha. It is Christ, right? It is Allah. It is Yahweh. It is Ma. It's everything, every word that we could bring forward. It is that. And it's this invitation to be one with that. Purity. Purity is that which has never been tainted. And so in the simplicity of a peace that is undisturbable, we start to really discover how we are connected and one with the purity of divine wholeness, of that which has never ever been tainted. No one is that divine wholeness, and yet there is only that divine wholeness. And through presence, we are miraculously being invited to remember that wholeness. So here's the whole truth laid out, the whole truth laid out, like a map, like a mandala shining. So in this moment, just to feel the resonance, where you feel truth, it's where you can confirm truth. It's not conceptual. We could say it might touch into ideas of things you've known, but where there's been partial conceptual truth, it dissolves into a resonance of truth. And truth is being, truth is now, truth is this moment, and you are this truth. It is truth that sets you free. This moment is that truth. It is to be here as this living truth and be free.